Dear students, this is Dr. Pooja Thakkar from Inside Biology. We are in the 12th session of human reproduction, which is the last session. In this particular session, we need to discuss regarding menstruation. In the previous session, we have discussed regarding fertilization. So, during the reproductive phase or a period of female, each and every succeeding time in human, ape, or monkey, ovaries produces ova at regular intervals that has been produced for the fertilization process. And for that, the changes occur in the uterus for the preparation of pregnancy, that is, the thickening of the endometrial tissues as well as formation of many blood vessels to provide nourishment to the developing fetus. But in the case if ovum remains unfertilized, means there is no fertilization event, there is no need for the further development of the endometrium, right? And in this particular case, endometrium will be broken down, the tissues as well as the developed blood vessels will get ruptured, and then the discharge of blood, unfertilized ovum, and broken endometrium occurs through the vagina is called menstruation or menses. So in this particular diagram, we'll be able to notice the overall period of 28 days in a particular woman is divided into three phases. First is menses. The second will be termed as follicular phase, in which you will be able to notice the development of follicle. And in the last phase, which will be considered as luteal phase or secretory phase. Now we'll discuss each and every phase in detail. The first will be considered as menstrual phase or menses, which extends from first day to fourth day, in most of the cases in female. At that particular time period, the LH level goes down, that is, luteinizing hormone is not at all required at that particular time. Corpus luteum will get degenerate, obviously, because the menses has started. The corpus luteum's main function is to secrete progesterone to sustain or to maintain the pregnancy in a particular female, which is not at all required now. That's why the corpus luteum will get degenerate in this case, and that will form corpus albicans, which is a very small ruptured structure which will soon degenerate. Decreased level of progesterone will happen. The endometrium fails to be maintained and thus it will broken down. The discharge of this broken endometrium as well as ruptured blood vessels with the mucus and unfertilized ovum takes place through vagina. This is called menstrual flow. Now in the next phase in the diagram, you will be able to notice when the menses happen, the follicle has started growing a little bit. But till they reach the period which can be called as follicular phase, or you can also say the developmental phase, in which the follicle has the particular follicle which is growing in the ovary has attained a specific site, which is then considered as Graafian follicle, which has been previously discussed already. That Graafian follicle is perfectly ready for the ovulation process. That particular follicle will get attached to the ovarian boundary, ovaries boundary, to get merged with it and to release the ready ovum, that is secondary oocyte. That process is termed as ovulation, that is occurring in typically you can say nearly 10 to 14 days of the overall cycle. That days varies in particular female depending upon the cyclic you can say cyclic days development in each and every month, or the cycle which is happening for either 25 days, 23 days, 24 days, 26 days, numbers of days, right? Okay, so as per that, the particular phase or the day at which the ovulation happens, that varying in a particular female. So in proliferatory phase, what happened, that is following menstrual phase, that lasts for 14 days. At that particular time period, FSH and LH level begin to rise. You can see in the diagram, LH and FSH level will continue to be rise. FSH level is comparatively little less than LH. LH is supremely required here as it is termed as luteinizing hormone. FSH mainly work on the follicles for their development to form the predominant follicle, which will be then considered as Graafian follicle. And after the formation of Graafian follicle, it will be negatively, that FSH level is negatively inhibited by feedback inhibition using GnRH. Now follicle releases estrogen. So when you will be drawing this particular cycle, you can draw estrogen level or estrogen peak rising till 14th day, till the LH is high. And after that, the progesterone peak will continue. That we'll discuss in the luteal phase. So estrogen level will be high during 0 days to 14 days. Following that, progesterone level will become high. So when blood estrogen level rises, it will do positive feedback stimulation on the LH. Obviously, estrogen level will boost the LH level positively, and that particular condition will lead to very high LH concentration during the fertile period of a particular female, that has been shown in the diagram at 14th day, which is termed as LH surge. And at that particular time period, that will trigger meiosis 1 of primary oocyte to form secondary oocyte for the release of the secondary oocyte out of the follicle for the further development. So now, once the secondary oocyte will form, it will lead to ovulation by rupturing the Graafian follicle. Now there will be two situations. If this particular secondary oocyte will get fertilized with the sperm, the zygote formation will take place. But in the case of absence of sperm at that particular site, the ovum remain unfertilized. Fine. And that will lead to following menstrual cycle in the next coming 28 days phase. The next phase will be considered as luteal phase. It is also considered as secretory phase. That will last for 10 days. In luteal phase also, there will be two chances. In the case of pregnancy, the remnant of Graafian follicles forms corpus luteum that will increase in its size and secrete progesterone continuously to sustain the pregnancy. The corpus luteum get fully formed on the 19th day, and that will secrete largest quantity of progesterone. As we have already discussed, the main function of progesterone is to stimulate the superficial layer of endometrium. It will make the endometrium very bulky and ready for the implantation. But in the absence of pregnancy, the corpus luteum will be degenerating itself to form the disintegrated structure or the smallest structure, which is called as corpus albicans, and that will give the signal to the primary follicles to grow again, and thus marking a new cycle. So in this particular diagram, you will be able to notice the various pituitary gland hormones that is secreted from the anterior pituitary gland, that is LH, FSH, estrogen as well as progesterone. As you will be able to notice a blue line of LH and green line of FSH. Simultaneously, you can draw two colored lines. One will be estrogen, that will be from 0 day to 14th day, the high level, and the following level will be high for progesterone. The progesterone remains high in the case of pregnancy, but if the fertilization won't happen, it is not at all needed, so its concentration falls down. Here we also need to focus on three different terms. First is menarche, that is the beginning of ovulation or menstruation at the age of 12 or 13, which is puberty. The second definition will be, or the term is menopause, that when the ovulation or menstruation stops nearly at the age of 45 or 50. That depends upon the varieties of factors in particular female. And the next term will be climacteric period or climacteric term. This is the period in which these cycles become irregular just before they'll get completely stopped. So it is the phase between menstrual as well as menopause. So you can say this particular climacteric period will happen in a particular female just before the menopause. So here We have discussed menstruation in detail. The main focus was to understand the details of all the three phases, that is menses phase, following proliferative phase, and the last phase will be luteal phase. So here we are ending with the human reproduction session or the overall process. If you like this video, kindly subscribe the channel to have details of all the 12 videos which has been recorded for human reproduction. Thank you.